Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Revel No Shorty, and I've got to say, this is like a double spread kind of comic book, so it might be more than 5 minutes. I do apologize if that's going to ruin your day. What we're reviewing, though, is Cradle of Filth. Comic book, well, I want to say either about or by Cradle of Filth, but neither of those things are 100% accurate. It's two individual comic books playing on the themes of Cradle of Filth. For people who don't know, Cradle of Filth are a heavy metal band. They kind of exist in a kind of cross between a few genres. I really like black metal and extreme heavy metal, and there's only a couple of albums they've done which have really landed for me. It's kind of like symphonic black metal with some doom and some goth thrown in there. It is hard to nail down exactly what they are. I think Danny Filth, the frontman of the band, has done his best to make sure that's always going to stay the way it is. They like being their own thing, and that's absolutely cool. It means that this comic book is not about them, isn't really about heavy metal, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. A lot of comic books about heavy metal tend to have heavy metal be the butt of the joke, and that sucks. Go and read Murder Falcon if you actually want a really good heavy metal comic book. This is actually just two separate stories that seem to just be dark epic fantasies. The first one is like we'll call it on the main story, which is it's only the first chapter. The second one is a self-contained dark fantasy revenge story. We're going to talk about the second one first, if that's okay, because this one is a little bit easier to talk about. The artwork is absolutely solid. There's an occasional moment where I think they get the proportions of the human body slightly wrong. Somebody's wrist only comes up to barely where their hip is, whereas your elbow should actually be almost at your hip. The wrist be a lot further down. And when I noticed that, I was a bit like, that's strange. But he's a really good artist. I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. I'm really bad at this. Piotr Kowalski. Maybe pronouncing that wrong. I do apologize. He's been doing the Bloodborne comic books with Cullen Bunn at the moment. So he definitely knows what he's doing when it comes to horror artwork, and his dark fantasy is very full of horror. It is the story of a dispossessed spirit coming back to wreak bloody vengeance on the evil king that destroyed his land, and it is really good. It's the kind of dark, gritty fantasy that it's been around for a while. The Marvel and then Ablaze have both been doing Conan recently. But I think until Barbaric started, the dark fantasy stuff has been a little bit more noirish than actual full-on horror. Barbaric kind of, without being fully horror, embraced the brutality that you can do within this genre. And since then, we've had Death Dealer and at least a couple of others I can't remember off my head, where they've actually really gotten into just how dark you can get and embracing the brutality of the fights that you're going to see. And it's done really well. It's a very effective little short story, and it's at times the artwork is beautiful and translucent. It's really, really good. But the first part of it is better. And I don't mean this to take away from the second part, it's doing different things. But the moment you open up the comic book, you're going to see this absolutely beautiful, fantastic artwork. It's like a washed out Liam Sharp. It does lack his level of detail, but in a way I quite enjoy. Artist does Menton 3. I've found them on Instagram and Twitter, and their stuff is fantastic and beautiful. You can go and check them out. I'm going to show you just a little bit of the artwork without really giving too much away. Just give you an idea of like the sense of what you're getting. That is just page 1. With the only dialogue or phrase going to be "I was born in hell." That kind of starts you exactly where you think you're going to be, and it's brilliant. Throughout the entire comic book, it does everything I wanted it to do. That artwork is fantastic. It riffs on certain repeating tropes of like circles because you're in hell. It generally keeps the figures in profile, so it just kind of lets you get a sense of what they are rather than the detail. There are occasional shots of detail, like I say, but it doesn't have the same level that a lot of other fantasy artists would do. They'd relish in the finer cuts. You'll be able to see skin moving and claws and teeth. This is more just a sense of hell, and it's done so effectively. And the writer, I'm going to have to check the name for this one, Holly Interlandi, their writing is absolutely fantastic. They have a cadence and a rhythm, which is just so absolutely pleasing. If you've watched any of my reviews of Ram V stuff, you'll know that I like that kind of poetic style to it. They've actually done a fantastic job in this one. There's hardly any dialogue, and the stuff that in there it fits perfectly, and it's very grandiose to demons in hell talking to each other. But for the most part, it is just the succubus, the main character in this one, giving you a narration on what they're experiencing. And it's never pushes into that kind of like grandiose, over the top nature. It flows. It's beautiful to read. And like Ramvi, the stuff you want to read it out loud to get a full sense of it. Now, having just told you the basics of those comic books, you're probably thinking this sounds absolutely brilliant. But there is a small caveat to all this. First off, neither of these two stories really go above or beyond or change my expectations of what they're going to be for dark fantasy, epic gore fests, or whatever you want to do with them. They fit perfectly within their niches. But they're very good at what they do. It's very hard to criticize them for doing exactly what they set out to do and be very good examples of it. But I also kind of thought with the fact that Danny Filth and Cradle Filth would have spent years, maybe decades even, putting out stuff which within its own niche is very, very good, but also can turn things around and do stuff which interests me. I was expecting maybe something along that line. Now, Danny Filth doesn't need to be that much involved in this one. I feel like it's just the creators have taken the worlds that he creates and have told stories within them, and that's perfectly fine. It's really good. In fact, fine is too harsh a word to say about it. It's an excellent idea. I just hope that as this goes through, we're going to see some change, some twist, some dark knife stabbing into the story, which is going to make you rethink about what your original ideas were. I really hope that's going to be the case. And looking at the price of them, because they're $6.66, each issue is going to be two separate stories, one of the continuing ones and then a separate one at the back. And it's absolutely worth your money because they are ad-free and the artwork and the writing are all fantastic. I did go over. I do apologize. That's it for me, though. I'll be back next week. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.